Finally, I got to build a paludarium for my frog. He seems to be happy to have a nice home finally. I'll show you guys how I built my enclosure with a few simple steps. Hi guys, welcome back to the BubblyPetz channel. This is Isla. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I'm going to set up a paludarium for my African bullfrog. Here's the tank I'm going to use. It's a 20-gallon long. So first I'm going to begin with cleaning and wiping the inside of the tank. I just have a rag here and it's damp with water, so I'm just going to start by wiping the outside, and then I will move towards the inside. This lid slides out, just like that. In here I have some pre-cut pieces of glass that I took from an old tank I had and deconstructed it in order to get the glass panes. So now I finished wiping down the tank. Now I'm going to place the glass in the tank and position them so that I can mark where they fall along the tank so I know where to apply the silicone. Now this tank was the only 20-gallon long I could find at my local pet store. It comes with this tray that can slide in and out. So I could not put the glass simply like that and like glue it to the end. Instead, I have this piece which I cut to fit right on top of there. And then I have these two pieces that will go like this. So now I just have a expo marker. I don't have a wax pencil, but if you do, those are really good for marking on glass. I'm just gonna mark on the outside of the tank. So now I'm going to get my silicone and the caulk gun. Now I have some gloves. I'm going to put these on because I'm going to smooth out the silicone along the edges of everything. You don't want to get the stuff on your hands because it's hard to wash off. I'm also just going to quickly tape the glass to the sides of the tank so they don't fall down. Next, I'm going to take this sheet of light diffuser and I'm going to cut it up into smaller pieces so that I can put it along the bottom right by where I place the glass to use as a place for rocks and wood that I put down to grip. Here's a pair of wire clippers that I'm going to use to cut the plastic. I think that amount is good for now. I probably, if I do need more, I can cut more, but I think that is a good length for me to put down material later. Now I have some large rocks, and I'm going to see how tall they are in comparison to the glass structure I've made so that I know how much polystyrene insulation to cut out to use. Here's a sheet that I have. It's very big, so I'm going to take some box cutters and try to cut it up. Right now, I'm just trying to mentally map out which sticks and which rocks I want to use. I cannot start yet because the silicone needs time to cure, so I think like 3 days, maybe less. But I need to wait till it's fully dried before I can start actually putting down other materials against it. Okay guys, it's been 3 days now and the silicone has fully dried and cured. Now we're gonna be moving on to step number 2 of my process for building this paludarium. So now I need to remove the lid and I'm going to begin with setting up how I want to decorate the tank using my rocks and driftwood. Here's an example of the type of rocks I will be using to create a slope downwards from here. These are just some normal rocks you could probably find outside. Here's just an empty plastic planter that I'm going to be putting in because I do plan on putting some live plants in after I finish building. So I'm going to set this where I want to have the plant placed. Now on to the next step. I've finished my placement of rocks and stones in my planter, and now I'm going to fill in the gaps and connect everything with this expanding foam. So now I've got on gloves and safety eyewear because I want to be safe while using this, but also I've never used this before. And I just finished reading the instructions of how to use it, so we're going to see how this goes. Right now it's looking a little steep and I'm having some doubts about the ability of my frog to get up here. So I'm thinking about I might add another rock towards around here just to level it out a little bit more. Here's the finished look after I've inserted the foam. Now again, we will have to wait 24 hours before we can begin the next step. So here's the tank after the foam has dried. You can see I made sure to cover up the grid at the bottom because I decided I do not want that exposed, don't want the frog to get caught on it. So now we're going to begin by taking a razor scraper, this thing, just got a blade like that, and we are going to carve the foam just so that we can get a better, more natural look to it. And then after that, we will be adding on like cocoa fiber and sand to give it a natural color. So now I've finished finally carving everything, and there are debris everywhere. I had to pick up the larger debris, and then I'm now going to sweep in order to pick up all the smaller debris. I'm now going to be unpackaging this cocoa fiber, and I will need to break it up and add some water to it. It's now been a night that I've soaked the cocoa brick and it's expanded and come apart, but it was too wet and I cannot use wet cocoa fiber to adhere to silicone. So what I did was spread it out on a baking sheet, put it in the oven at 350 degrees, and I baked it for about 2.5 hours, making sure to check on it every 30 minutes and toss and turn. So now what I'm going to do is take the silicone and we are going to spread it along where the foam is so that we can stick sand and cocoa fiber onto it. Okay, now I've spread all the silicone along it, and I've got just some like natural colored sand that I'm going to sprinkle around the areas that I want to have the color and texture of the sand. So like probably down here, because that's where I'm going to have the land connect with the water, and then I can just sprinkle a little bit up here. Make sure you try to press the sand and stuff so that it just sticks. Guys, I've decided I'm going to, let's put this here. I'm going to spread the sand all around just to get an even color. Try to get rid of the black color of the foam. Okay guys, I finished with the sand, and we're going to have that way for 24 hours before we'll apply our cocoa fiber on top. But in the meantime, we're going to cut out the background. For the background, I am just going to be using a cocoa fiber carpet. And now I need to see what I'm going to cut. So now I've got the background, and I'm just going to wipe down the glass real quick for where I'm going to be putting it. Now the glass is wiped down decent enough, and we are going to take our background, get our silicone, and then we're going to apply silicone to the backs. And then now, I'm gonna take a paint scraper, just for like paintbrushes. It'll work, and we're just going to spread the silicone. Try to get it all along the back, because we want this to stick well to the glass. Okay, now we're done with that, and now we have to stick it to the glass. So the background is not like sticking really well, and it won't be able to like actually be stuck on until the silicone cures. So to prevent it from falling off while I'm waiting for it to cure, I'm just putting heavy stuff over it right now. I just had extra rocks, so I'm just putting those there until, like, I guess I'll check on it in 24 hours. Same with that. And it should be like mostly cured by then. Now that I've cleaned up the sand that was not siliconed on, we are going to apply silicone over top of that layer so that we can stick some cocoa fiber just to cover up some of these dark patches where you can see the foam, or cover up any little problems, like maybe right there. Okay, now I'm done with the cocoa fiber again. Just like with the sand, we want this to sit at least 24 hours for it to cure. And then we will repeat the process with the vacuum just to remove the excess that didn't get glued on. But now I'm going to move on to just adding some more detail to the background. So I'm going to foam on some wood pieces. So now I'm doing the background, but because this cannot float, like it's too heavy, like I can't prop it up against anything, I turn the tank on its side so that while the foam is curing, it can stay there. So now that the silicone has cured for the cocoa fiber, we have to sweep it like we did with the sand, just to make sure there's not extra dust and stuff. Just get rid of it. So now that I've finished sweeping, I'm going to be carving the foam down on the back wall just to make it look more realistic and not as lumpy. Now we've done that, I'm going to apply silicone and then attach the cocoa fiber. Alright, I finished applying the cocoa fiber, but now we have to let the silicone cure for 24 hours. And then after that, we will begin cleaning up and finalizing our setup. Okay, this is after the background has dried. We're going to sweep it up, but then also do some finishing touches, like removing any silicone off the glass, scraping away some of the cocoa fiber off the branches in the background, just wherever we can see that we want to improve. Now I'm taking the razor scraper again and I'm going to be scraping the glass to get rid of any silicone and stuck substrate. I finished cleaning up the glass, so now I'm going to sweep again, and then I will wipe down the glass with some isopropyl alcohol just to clean it and get off any smudges. And then we begin with the next steps. So here's the alcohol. I'm just gonna put some on paper towel, and then we're just going to clean the glass. Now that I've finished cleaning the glass, I'm going to add in some sand just to the bottom over here to make it look more realistic. But then I'm also going to put some more damp cocoa fiber up here, and then I'm going to plant a plant in there. Now I'm just going to add water to the sand just so that I know how much it compacts with the water and so that it'll already be damp before I actually add water to the lower level. So here is just golden pothos. I think it's a pretty hardy plant, but I am going to attempt to just take out only a small sections that have some developed roots so that I can put in the planter there. Possibly maybe up here. I'll see how much space there is with the frog before doing that. This cut has a little bit of roots, which are enough, and I'm just going to stick it in here. Now that I have all the plants in place, I'm just going to add a little bit of decoration. So just some dried pine cones. Okay, here is the finished setup. So now let's go move our tank to where we're gonna set it, and then we will add in water to the bottom, and then finally we will reintroduce my frog. Here's my frog. He's been living in this sad container for a few months now because he was not eating, and I just ended up moving him here temporarily in order to get him to start eating again and getting more weight. He actually used to live in the enclosure that my American bullfrog now lives in, but I got him since he was a baby, and like he's always had a really good appetite, like he was doing really well. But after like a year, like I didn't change anything with the habitat, and he just started hiding in the dirt more, and usually if I dug him up and tried to feed him, he would eat. But then eventually he started not wanting to eat. He was losing his appetite, and I was like, oh, what's going on? Why is he not eating? And he would just hide in dirt. So I let him hide in dirt for like a while, like without him eating, and then I would try and feed him later on to see if he's still hungry. Sometimes he would eat a little, sometimes not, but it got to a point where he he didn't look really good. He was skinny and his color was not as bright. So eventually I was like, this is enough, it's not okay. So then I took him out and I had to start force feeding him practically, almost for a few feedings until eventually he actually got his appetite back. And so in order to prevent him from digging down in the dirt and not eating again, I ended up moving him into this plastic enclosure for a while, and I just had a heater set up, just an old fish tank heater to keep him warm. And as long as I had him in here, he actually always ate whenever I offered him food, so his appetite actually improved a lot, and he has now gained weight. Of course, I still want him to gain more weight though. He still looks a little skinny to me, but I am hoping that after setting up his own nice enclosure for him that he will start to do better. But now I've set up a new tank for him, all his, and we will see how he did. So if you haven't noticed, like, it looks kind of not so scenic from this point of view. And unfortunately, I could not put like this part like against the back because of how narrow the tank is. So I had to do it this way so that I would have the most room. But I think I am actually gonna plan on filling in the area under here and around here just to block that up with some more foam. I did run out of foam, so I did not end up doing that yet, but after that I do not know what else to do to make it look better. Do you guys have any other suggestions maybe for what I can do? Let me know down in the comments.